From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Tensions turn violent in Tijuana as migrants rush to seek asylum in the United States. We look into how authorities are handling the escalating situation.
Plus, firefighters have finally contained the devastating wildfires in California as officials here in Arizona examine how we can prevent similar disasters in our home state.
And a journey of more than 6 months and 300 million miles comes to a successful end. How NASA's newest mission to Mars could teach us more about the unknown red planets.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Ashley Mackey.
And I'm Jake Trybulski. Thank you for joining us.
Officials in Mexico say they have deported nearly 100 Central American migrants just one day after they attempted to storm the U.S.-Mexico border.
Hundreds of people were peacefully protesting near the U.S. border in Tijuana when a smaller group broke off and charged towards the border fence. Tensions quickly rose and Border Patrol agents fired tear gas into Mexico and shut down traffic in both directions at the San Ysidro port of entry. President Donald Trump used the situation to call on Congress to provide funding for the construction of the border wall.
The migrants are a part of a larger caravan that pushed toward the U.S. in hopes of seeking asylum. There is concern if a similar scene could develop at Arizona's southern border.
Cronkite News reporter Abdel Jimenez spoke with local immigration attorneys and advocacy groups to get different perspectives on the complicated issue.
There's still some confusion as to what exactly is needed to ask for and obtain asylum right now in the United States. We wanted to tackle that issue while also speaking with those who provide help to these migrants and those who do not want them coming into the United States. These images show the moment part of the migrant caravan at the San Ysidro-Tijuana border tried to rush the point of entry yesterday. A severe escalation of the situation that has immigration attorneys in the valley saying this is a flashpoint around the topic of asylum, especially when at the southern border.
To get asylum in the United States is actually very, very difficult. You have to prove that you have a realistic probability of returning to your country and you're going to be exposed to a probable violence if you're there based on certain categories. So those are the first two things you got to prove, which is tough.
With the recent wave of the migrant caravan arriving at the border, pro-immigration groups working there are banding together, providing legal services to those confused with an often daunting process.
Lawyers all over the United States who are coming not every week, but with some frequency to Nogales, and they're spending a week here and providing information to migrants and providing the legal support that they can within the limited time frame.
However, scenes like these are exactly the reason those who oppose increased immigration say tough immigration laws are necessary.
So basically the problem with our asylum laws right now is that once you get into the country, which is you literally just have to say that you have a credible fear of persecution, once you get past that step, it's very easy to just disappear into the interior of the country. So when we talk about fixing our asylum laws, it's really about making sure to close those loopholes.
But with thousands of desperate migrants already at the border and more expected to arrive, one Phoenix attorney says the situation probably won't get better until it gets worse.
I think as long as you have a very prosperous nation next to countries that have suffered long decades of suppression, of pain, of poverty, you will always have immigrants trying to get to this more prosperous land.
San Diego Customs and Border Patrol says 42 people, mostly men, have been arrested on suspicion of illegally trying to cross the U.S.-Mexico border. Meanwhile, the Mexican Interior Ministry announced it would deport about 500 of those migrants, accusing them of violence. In the broadcast center, Abdel Jimenez, Cronkite News.
The confrontation at the border is likely to renew sparring in Washington over funding for a border wall.
It's a fight that could lead to a partial government shutdown this month if both sides dig in their heels. Charlene Santiago has more from our Washington bureau.
Congress is running out of time to reach an agreement on border wall funding. The Department of Homeland Security budget will expire by the end of next week, and 2 weeks after that, we'll see Democrats take over the House.
Everybody understands that wall funding will be tough to come by in the next couple years, so it's a now or never thing.
And that's exactly what President Donald Trump reminded Congress today on Twitter, even threatening to close the southern border permanently if needed. This a day after U.S. authorities fired tear gas into a crowd of migrants in Tijuana, Mexico.
The president is clearly playing up this situation at the border as this decision point is coming to a head. And we'll have to see whether that will be effective, but I don't think that it changes either side's kind of negotiating.
So far, the House has included $5 billion, while the Senate has only agreed on $1.6 billion.
It's ridiculous that they've waited until this point to obtain the funding for his key campaign promise.
A promise the president continues to push for and has threatened to veto any legislation that doesn't include funding for the wall. At this point, it's unclear exactly how much money Trump will get for his wall, but Bolter says it's unlikely Democrats will shift their stand in a few weeks left in this session.
The Democrats in the Senate have agreed to $1.6 billion, which was already a stretch for them. And as the balance of power shifts in January, it doesn't seem likely that their position would change.
A budget standoff could lead to a shutdown, but with 75% of the budget already approved, this would only affect a limited number of agencies, including DHS. In Washington, Charlene Santiago, Cronkite News.
California fire officials say the devastating Camp Fire is now completely contained. Firefighters battled the blaze for more than 2 weeks, and the Camp Fire has killed at least 85 people and destroyed thousands of homes. It burned an area of land roughly the size of Chicago. Officials consider it to be the deadliest wildfire in California history.
The California Camp Fire destroyed the town of Paradise, but now the state is looking to rebuild. Reporter Jennifer Alvarez shows us how APS is lending a helping hand in this effort.
It's an early morning for these APS workers, but it won't be their last. They're just about ready to head off to California to help get electricity back on in Paradise. They say their last goodbyes to family and get ready for more than 2 months of 14-hour days. But they weren't selected to do this. Rather, all of these people volunteered to do so.
Absolutely. It's a great opportunity to give back and hopefully be a little bit of light in the ashes that these people have had to go through.
But they're not just turning the power back on like they might do for your home after a monsoon storm. They're helping rebuild the entire power grid from scratch.
Poles will be gone, wires will be gone. It's really starting over, so it's a lot of work. It'll take a lot of time.
It's a heavy ground effort. You're rebuilding the entire infrastructure of their power. It's literally ground up build, everything.
And they're not the only company lending a helping hand to our neighboring state.
And there's folks coming as far as New York and Hawaii and all over the country to come and help get this done.
They're estimating over 3,000 utility workers from all over the United States.
And at the end of the day, they're thankful they can help.
It's actually a very humbling experience to go. It's very humbling for these guys to volunteer to go over there, you know, during the holiday time. 3 weeks of that is gone, and it'll be very rewarding, very rewarding.
In total, 2 groups from APS will be heading to Paradise, California. The next group is expected to depart November 30th.
Arizona utilities are working to keep electric lines from starting wildfires here in our state. Cronkite News reporter Jimmy Jackson explains what they watch out for and how you can help.
The Camp Fire in Northern California is contained, but the investigation continues into what caused this catastrophic wildfire. A downed power line may be to blame. This fire highlights the challenges utility companies face with powering communities in forested areas. In northern Arizona, the threat of wildfires is high, and utility companies like Arizona Public Service recognize the importance of keeping lines clear.
We serve over 1.2 million customers, all the way up from the Grand Canyon, all the way down to Douglas, Arizona on the Mexico border. And we have a lot of those lines that run through really heavily forested areas.
APS relies on customers who live in forested communities to take precautions.
It's making sure that yards are clear of brush, that there's sod around yards, that if you do see a tree that's too close to a line, you're calling APS and having us come cut it away before it gets too dry and fire season's in full swing.
They also do annual line inspections to make sure that they are free of trees and debris.
SRP has much less lines running through forested areas, but its interest in preventing wildfires has more to do with protecting Arizona's water supply.
So much of our water supply comes from the forested mountains of northern Arizona, from the Flagstaff and Williams area all the way to the White Mountains. And those forests, because of the recent drought and management decisions that have been made over the past 100 years, are at extreme risk of wildfire.
Salt River Project wants agencies like the U.S. Forest Service to thin overgrown forests to help prevent catastrophic fires like the Rodeo Chedisky fire in 2002. It was one of the worst fires in Arizona's history.
If we can reduce it so that entire landscapes don't burn like happened in the Rodeo Chedisky fire, then the watershed is then protected in our water supply.
Both utility companies realize the reality. There are a lot more people living in forested communities, and that makes preventing wildfires harder. In Phoenix, Jimmy Jackson, Cronkite News.
In 2015, the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection said that wildfires sparked by power lines burned the most acreage.
Experts say Alzheimer's affects more than 5.5 million Americans today.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how those living with the disease are affected not only physically and emotionally, but financially as well.
3, 2.
And NASA's latest Mars mission lands after taking off more than 6 months ago. We'll dig into the impact of this far-roving exploration.
Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
After a journey of more than 6 months and 300 million miles, the NASA InSight spacecraft has successfully landed on Mars.
Touchdown confirmed.
NASA's Mission Control celebrated earlier today after receiving confirmation that the unmanned spacecraft landed on the red planet just before 1 p.m. There was no immediate information regarding whether the spacecraft landed in good working order. The three-legged, one-armed spacecraft will spend the next 2 years digging under the surface of the planet. Scientists hope to learn how the planet formed and collect data on Mars's interior. Although scientists at ASU aren't playing a specific role in the landing of the InSight spacecraft, they are paying close attention as they work on a project to design and operate a camera system for a mission to Mars in the year 2020.
Alzheimer's affects more than just the person diagnosed with the disease. It can take a toll financially, emotionally, and physically of people of all ages. Reporter Tanaya Williamson met with people who have dealt with Alzheimer's in a number of ways.
According to the Alzheimer's Association, in the United States, Alzheimer's disease affects 1 in 3 seniors. And it doesn't just impact those living with it. It touches the lives of loved ones as well. I talked with several people about the impact of the disease and what it's had on their families.
I sometimes have to turn around and count to 10. There's a lot of frustration because you are human after all, and you have to just remember that this isn't, they're not doing anything on purpose.
As Alzheimer's progresses, it can become costly.
On average, the cost of long-term care, this is the big one, in Maricopa County, Pima County, and Pinal County is about $7,200 a month.
Tyler White is an elder law attorney who handles many cases of elders making financial plans for Alzheimer's.
That's kind of something that makes a lot of people very, very nervous because most people in retirement don't have $7,000 of income.
Dawn Pumain is a caregiver for her mother, who is currently battling early stages of Alzheimer's. She lost her father to the disease 5 years ago and has concerns about being able to provide her mother with the care that she needs.
There may come a time where I can't provide for my mom. There was a time when I couldn't do everything for my dad. So I know that that's possibly in the future. And I hope that when I get to that point that I'll be okay with it.
83% of the help provided to older adults in the United States comes from family members, friends, or other unpaid caregivers, and nearly half of caregivers who provide care to elders do so for someone with Alzheimer's. Harry and Penny Palabeski have been married for 51 years. Harry has been living with Alzheimer's for the past 2.
So he's still in the baby stages.
And it's still, I've still got quite a bit of memory, but we know it's going.
The Palabeski say they have prepared for the possible financial toll.
Yeah, we started our financial planning way back when. And with me, the job I had, he was putting money away in an account out of our paychecks. Okay, so when I left, I had a nice amount of money waiting for me.
While many do plan financially, the amount that goes into care often depletes what was once saved up, especially if you keep your loved one at home and have nurses brought in.
Care can oftentimes be more expensive at home than it is in a facility. And I've seen people spending $20,000 a month, $25,000 a month on in-home care.
Harry is still in the early stages and is choosing to enjoy each moment while he can.
Well, don't worry about it until it happens, number one. I know I have it, but I still have a lot left in me before it really does take a horrible effect on me.
There are over 170,000 people living with Alzheimer's in Arizona and southern Nevada. In the broadcast center, Tanai Williamson, Cronkite News.
It's a tasty item for sushi lovers.
But the supply of sea urchin could be in danger. Coming up on Cronkite News, we take you to the ocean for a fight over food that could impact your seafood availability.
And after a pretty chilly Thanksgiving here in the Valley, I'm tracking even cooler air on the way just in time for the weekend. We'll let you know how cold it's going to be getting here coming up in your full forecast.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem. Live in Philadelphia.
From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
The delicacy known as uni comes from red sea urchins, which are often harvested off California's coast. Unfortunately for sushi lovers, the purple sea urchin is outcompeting the red sea urchin for food. Cronkite reporter Emily Four explains how this is stressing not only the ecosystem, but sea urchin harvesters as well.
Come on aboard. Jeff Mawson has been diving and selling red sea urchins off the Santa Barbara coast for 30 years.
Yeah, it would break my heart if I couldn't do it anymore.
The gonad meat of the red sea urchin is often served at sushi bars, but these urchins are in trouble. Mawson says climate change has shifted ocean temperatures, and warmer water has allowed purple sea urchins to grow in number.
So what's happening in Southern California, as all up through San Francisco, is we're getting warmer water, more abundance, higher abundance of warmer water. We're seeing more El Niños, we're seeing warmer water currents dominating our coastal ecosystem, and that's changing everything as we used to know it.
That change? The purple sea urchins are devouring all the food.
We've had mega blooms of purple sea urchins all along the California coast. That has overcompeted with the red sea urchins for available food.
As a result, kelp, what red sea urchins survive on, is declining.
The red sea urchins are starving to death. Everything's getting stressed right now because of lack of food and the lack of healthy ecosystem.
Dr. Jen Cassell is a research biologist at the Marine Science Institute at the University of California, Santa Barbara.
The northern California coast of California has taken a beating, and the kelp loss is almost 100%. Almost 100%.
Cassell says kelp loss affects the entire underwater ecosystem.
The whole system basically collapses because the kelp provides both homes for other animals, and it provides the food.
Cassell and Mawson say collaboration between researchers and fishermen is important to try and help save the red sea urchin.
Fishermen have a huge wealth of natural history knowledge and knowledge about their fishery and knowledge about the organisms that they're fishing, and scientists would do well to listen to them.
Put faith in your local marine biologists and your scientists and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and demand that they work towards solutions, constructive solutions, to fix this problem.
The California Fish and Game Commission has increased the daily bag limit for purple sea urchins off Mendocino and Sonoma counties in an effort to control their population. In Los Angeles, Emily Four, Cronkite News.
In 2016, California's statewide red sea urchin landings dropped to a new low of 5.3 million pounds, the lowest it's been since the 1970s.
It was a really chilly Thanksgiving weekend here in the Valley.
Jordan, will the cool air stick around this weekend?
The cool air is going to stick around. In fact, I'm tracking even cooler air coming in for the weekend. Some of the coldest air that we've seen so far this season. If you remember last year in Thanksgiving, we were pretty above average where record highs were set all across the valley. But as we take a look outside right now, the cameras are showing plenty of sunshine out there, and temperatures, they're feeling pretty nice right now in the 70s right now. 74 degrees being our current temperature at Sky Harbor International. Dew points down to the 20s, so not a lot of moisture out there right now, but moisture will increase as we head into the weekend. We'll look at that here in just a second. But tracking those temperatures for tonight, 70s will be our temperature at 6 o'clock, falling into the 60s through 7, with 50s kicking in at 10 o'clock tonight. And then for tomorrow morning, as you head out the door and the kids head out to school, up in the high country, below freezing in Flagstaff along the rim, with 20s up there, 37 in Payson, 34 in Prescott, and 40s for the valley, as well as areas up to the west, up and down that Colorado River Valley. And highs out in those locations, I should say. 70 is going to be there, 77 in the Yuma for the hot spot, 75 in Phoenix, 60 in Payson, and 54 in Flagstaff, as well as up and down the rim. And tracking that rain as we head into the weekend, this is where the storm system is right now. It's still off the coast of Alaska, but as it makes its way down towards the lower 48, this is where things get interesting, because models are kind of split on where the storm is going to go. Some want to take it up to the north, some want to bring it down to the south in Arizona, and if that were to be the case, then we could see some pretty good chances of rain here for the valley. And that's why I've left those pops here in the 7-day forecast heading into Thursday and Friday with 30% there. But regardless of where that storm goes, we are going to see a dip in temperatures heading into the weekend. In the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Jordan Evans.
It's official. ASU football's own N'Keal Harry is going pro.
Next on Cronkite News, we talk to the wide receiver about his plans for the future.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
Millions of people die every year from drinking dirty water. I would never have felt I had the ability to do something without ASU pushing me. We built filtration systems out of local materials with the people. To see those kids drink clean water for the first time, it's the most rewarding feeling that you can ever have. I went to ASU because I wanted to change the world. The thing I never would have expected is how the world would have changed me.
Ever since wide receiver N'Keal Harry arrived at Arizona State from Chandler High School, he made his presence known, catching at least one pass in all 37 career games. He ranks third in school history in catches and receiving yards. Now, as Justin Parham explains, that career in Tempe is coming to a close after just 3 years.
I'd like to forego my senior season and declare for the the 2019 NFL Draft.
In order to reach the NFL, players need to check a few boxes. N'Keal Harry's size, speed, and skills allow him to check a few.
The biggest box of all that he checks off, and I've discussed it with the pro guys, is that he loves to compete.
After excelling at Chandler High School, N'Keal Harry decided to continue his football legacy at Arizona State University. With that being said, though, could the Territorial Cup have been N'Keal Harry's last game as an Arizona State Sun Devil?
As far as the bowl game is concerned, I'm not too sure about that. We haven't really discussed that too much. You know, right now I'm just focused on enjoying today and making the most of it.
As a young boy, Harry arrived in Arizona from the Caribbean islands of St. Vincent. He went on to become the #1 recruit in the state. Colleges around the country wanted him, but Harry decided to stay home.
It was 100% worth it. You know, this state has given me so much. You know, being just a kid from a small island, ending up in Arizona. You know, this state means the world to me. And you know, when I was going through my recruiting decision, I was weighing my options and I was thinking to myself, why not Arizona State? Why can't I accomplish my dreams at Arizona State?
Harry also decided to attend Arizona State to be near his grandmother, who raised him after he arrived in the United States. In Tempe, Justin Parham, Cronkite News.
Whether or not Harry decides to play in Arizona State's bowl game, he could be the first Sun Devil drafted in the NFL's first round since defensive back Demarius Randall went to the Green Bay Packers with the 30th overall pick in 2015.
All right, and taking one last look at your 7-day forecast. It's going to be pretty nice for the next few days. Then a disturbance moves in just in time for the weekend, which will see a huge drop in temperatures. Some of the coldest air we've seen so far this season. I mean, we're going to be flirting with the 30s as we head into next week. So,
all right, got to get those jackets ready.
For sure.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.